The war between Israel and Hamas shows no sign of slowing down. But so far, the nightmare scenario of a wider Middle East conflict has not been realised. Now, that could change. A series of recent events has massively increased the risk of regional escalation and the chances of Iran, and perhaps even the US, being dragged into a full-scale war. In this video, we look at 3 key factors that could spark a global crisis. Since Hamas's surprise attack on Israel on October 7th, Iran has made no secret of its support for the proscribed terrorist organisation. But it's limited itself to indirect action through proxies and regional partners. On January 3rd, a devastating strike against unarmed mourners on Iranian soil might have altered their calculations. As many as 100 people were killed and many more injured by 2 bomb explosions in the city of Kerman, as people gathered to mark the death of Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian military commander himself killed in a US drone strike in 2020. While no one has claimed responsibility for the blasts, the US suggesting Islamic State might be the culprit, the Iranians have been clear about where they lay the blame. The Iranian president stated that Israel would pay a regrettable price for the worst terror attack in the country's history. If Iran were to take direct action against Israel, a US military intervention might follow. Clearly, whoever was responsible for this calculated act of devastation had no concerns about the potential repercussions. Across from Israel's northern border in Lebanon sits one of the most heavily armed non-state military forces in the world. Hezbollah is a Shia Islamist political party and militant group, armed and backed by Iran, and has a history of vicious conflict with its southern neighbours. Since October 7th, tit-for-tat strikes across the Israel-Lebanon border have been the norm. But in January, a targeted drone strike against a senior Hamas official in Beirut, deep in Hezbollah territory, blew apart the status quo. Israel's apparent assassination of Salah al-Arouri, the Hamas deputy leader, marks the first Israeli strike on the Hezbollah stronghold since 2006. Hezbollah has so far stopped short of declaring war on Israel, but promised the strike would not go unanswered. It would certainly be difficult for Iran to stay out of a more direct military confrontation. Further south, tensions in the Red Sea are close to boiling point, as another of Iran's proxies continues to threaten international shipping. Yemen's Houthi rebels, a separate entity to the internationally recognized Yemeni government, have promised more attacks on vessels with real or perceived links to Israel. After the Houthis successfully hijacked a cargo ship back in November, the US formed an international coalition to, in their words, uphold the principle of free navigation. The Houthis have now attempted at least 17 attacks on vessels, most drone and rocket attacks that have been intercepted, but the violence is ramping up. In January, the US military killed the entire crews of 3 Houthi boats as they attacked a container ship. 7 of the world's 10 biggest shipping companies have now suspended use of the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. With around 30% of global container traffic typically heading through the region, any instability can cause fluctuations in everyday goods prices. With the Houthis undeterred by the presence of the US Navy, there's also a chance that the US could decide to hit targets within Yemen itself, a move which would undoubtedly provoke Iran further. Leaders in Tehran have already dispatched a naval frigate to the Red Sea as part of the high-stakes standoff. 2024 remains unpredictable, with the direction of the war in Gaza, the US presidential elections, and the stance of other major global players on the deepening crisis yet to become clear.